In this episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast, I talk with Kristen Butler, author of The Key to Positivity, Why You've Got the Comfort Zone All Wrong and How to Tap Its Power to Live Your Best Life Now. Kristen is a 3-time best-selling author, CEO, and founder of Power of Positivity, a global movement she built from the ground up, now with over 50 million followers and reaching millions more worldwide. Recognized as Success Magazine's emerging entrepreneur, Kristen helps her community embrace positivity, self-worth, and personal transformation. Through her books, transformative courses, and talks, Kristen shares the practical, empowering strategies and mindset shifts that helped her rebuild her life after hitting rock bottom in 2009. Featured on Today, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and CBS, Kristen is also a keynote speaker in business and personal development. I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, Chris Green here for the Authorpreneur Podcast. Today we have a superstar in the publishing, in the positivity, in several worlds. I would say that you are probably qualified as a superstar. Kristen Butler is here. She has over 50 million followers across social media, which in itself is probably all you have to say to get somebody's attention, to be like, oh, wait, did you say 50 million? I'm listening. Tell me more. What you got to say? So we'll just start with that and we'll get into the rest. And of course, this is the Authorpreneur Podcast. So we will be talking about her books and her journey to becoming a published author and how she's using her books in her business. Kristen, welcome to the Authorpreneur Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
This is going to be really fun because you published your first book. Let me make sure that I get this right. 2021, you self-published your first book. You have several books that have been out and you are now doing a traditional publishing kind of deal. With your book coming out May 28th. It's available for pre-order on Amazon for people who want to learn more. Pick that up. And Amazon, of course, has their pre-order price guarantee. You'll always get the best price if you just place your pre-order. Don't worry about the price going down and not getting the best deal. But yeah, the key to positivity, which you probably didn't think I would do this, but as soon as I saw that, I went and checked if the key to positivity.com was available. It was not. It was taken. I was like, I really hope it's Kristen. And it was. I was so glad that you did that because I'm such a domain nerd. And I'm guessing you are too. And maybe that's the first story you tell us is the story of how you got the powerofpositivity.com, which is an amazing domain, amazing website.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I am also, so I think we bought that 15. Yeah, we're coming up on 15 years since we started Power of Positivity this June. And really, I started it just to create a community where I could talk about inspirational things and all things positive lifestyle, because I didn't really see anyone talking about that. And I had firsthand experienced a transformation in my life with positive thinking and taking positive action steps that, when you get really excited about something because you've experienced such a change in your life that you just want to tell everyone, like that's where I was at that point. I'm like, I have to share this information. And so Facebook just created pages, and I was also trying to create more work-life balance. So I said, I'm not going to make this about work. Let's make this fun. Let's make this a hobby. And so Power of Positivity came to mind because I was really reflecting on what was the biggest thing that's happened over these last few years? What was the key that changed my life? And it was positivity. But it was beyond positive thinking. And yeah, that's what I did. I went to GoDaddy and I checked if the domain was available because I didn't want to step on anyone's toes if they already had that business name. Because, that can happen all the time where you're like, that's a really great idea. Someone else thought of it. And it was available, and that's where it started.
And someone else actually used to have it and let it expire.
Yeah,
right?
They actually did, honestly. And I was like, yes, it was perfect timing. That kind of stuff can happen. And that's like almost like a sign, right? When it's like, well, they let it go. And so it's my chance.
I think seeing things as signs can be a great, powerful way to give yourself confirmation, whether you actually believe it's a literal sign or just say, you know what, I'm going to take it as a literal sign, whether it is or not. Right? Like we're allowed to do that if you want. And if that's what gives people a little bit of happiness, a little bit of motivation. I've done the same thing, like right place, right time. And you're like, oh, awesome. I can't believe it. I'll tell you a brief story. We've got Authorpreneur username on Instagram, but I wanted it on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I really hope it's available on TikTok. TikTok had been out for like 4 years or something. I was like, there's no way it's available. There were 4 other Authorpreneur TikTok accounts who all misspelled the word.
Oh my God.
They put the U in the wrong spot and they put the Authorpreneur and they put and I was like, are you serious? Like, I'm just going to walk in 4 years late with other people clearly making this type of content. And I'm just going to take Authorpreneur. Like, I was so happy.
Mhm.
I was so thankful because we got the .com, we got the Instagram,
Oh,
we
I
got the
love it.
YouTube, we've got the Spotify. Like, I want that kind of consistent brand as kind of like a vein thing. Like, I know it
Mhm.
doesn't really matter. I could make it work with other things. But yeah, when the right place, right time kind of happens, that can be, I use it as kind of like this boost, like this motivator to be like, awesome, let's go. It kind of gives me like a little confirmation that yes, this is what you're supposed to do. This piece is sitting there waiting for you. And then just moving forward and not getting bogged down, because I don't want people to do
Mhm.
the opposite. Be like, oh, I couldn't get my domain, so I gave up on my idea. I was like, are you kidding? Like,
Yeah.
no, the domain is nice, but it's not essential, right? The
Yeah.
domain isn't the key that makes it all work, but it is certainly nice to have, especially like a great, easy to remember power of positivity. I feel bad for whoever let it expire.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised no one picked it up off of like the expired list to be like if I saw that, I'd be like, oh, that's good. I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
But what they say, the universe speaks in languages or something. So super glad you have it, because it kind of feels like you definitely own it at this point. This positivity. You always have a message that people are responding to have so many followers across many different platforms. Is that overwhelming at sometimes? Sometimes like, you look at that and be like, are you kidding? 50 million?
Yeah,
Like, that
people
put
ask me
pressure on
that a
you?
lot, and it doesn't overwhelm me. I just have to make sure that I'm serving my community and creating impact and helping them to take positive action. Because before starting Power Positivity, there was so much information about positive thinking. And while that is so important, we can't receive something unless we're taking action. And so it's kind of like even the law of attraction, everybody talks about it, but it's like, that sounds really good, but nothing's going to happen until you take action. So for me, it's like, my mission is to make sure that I provide enough resources for them to take action. And that is why I wrote my first book. I love writing, and I knew I was going to write a book one day, but I was always like, is it going to be something they haven't read before? Is it going to be impactful? And that's why I kind of made it like 50 pages, part self-help book, where it's like explaining the reasons why they should be doing this. And then the 60-day journey to actually take the action, because the transformation really does happen in the action steps. Once you have that foundation, if you just think about it and stay stuck there, nothing really changes. And I think that's where people get caught up. They're like, I'm thinking in the right way, but then their habits aren't aligning. And then that's why I wrote 3-Minute Positivity Journal.
Well, maybe you could add a little more on top of like the idea of having patience and how it takes time. Because I've been there where it's like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna change right now and be changed. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Next day I'm kind of back to where I was. And it's this idea of it takes time and you have to be patient in a world where everybody wants to like the whole get rich quick and like, how can I make what a theme that has come up for me a lot is people want to make $1 million in 30 days. And I'm like, where are you guys getting these numbers? And like, that'd be
Wow.
amazing, if you could. And I have to tell people it's technically possible. Like, I'm not gonna say it's something's impossible, but I would say you have to get extremely lucky, have an incredible skill set, whatever it might be. It's not something anybody can do. Things take time. And if you
Hmm.
want to change that, you want to change, just your thinking habits. You have to have some repetition combined with time. And I'm trying to help people kind of accept that time thing. Do you have any advice that can really help people stop trying to find that quick route and do it the right way?
There is a lot of manifestation material out there that says that if you're thinking about it and you just write it every day for how many days, that it'll eventually happen. But the thing is again, you have to take action. And we didn't monetize Power of Positivity for 4 years. We just kept pouring in. And it really comes back to impact. And so if you want to make $1 million in 30 days, I'm not going to say you couldn't if somebody says they're going to be able to do that. But what kind of impact are you giving? What kind of value are you creating that someone is going to receive more than what you're asking for them to pay? And I think that's really key, is that value. When I first started selling the books, I had built up over 10 years of value and impact that I had given them for free day in and day out before I asked them to put money into my business and back to me. I had made revenue through ads on my website and things like that, but I was always trying to give them free content without asking them to pay. Now, often the transformation does happen when someone starts paying. They make that commitment to themselves and they
Mhm.
actually take the action, which is great. But again, to answer your question, I really think that you have to see like, what am I putting out? And is it of more value than what I'm asking and trying to take in?
It always sounds so simple, but I think people don't think of it that way. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna sell this." Well, I'm an economics major. It goes back to like why are people buying it? Do they value that product more than the cost of it? And you want them to. You want them to value it like at an insane level. Like I really, really need this product, and I would pay more for it. And then people get caught up if they're selling, like, well, if they would pay more for it, I should charge more for it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're missing the point so fast. Now you're just trying to get the most money out of your customer instead of trying to provide them with the most value. And I feel like I have to grab them by the shirt sometimes and shake them a little bit. You're like, come on, guys, focus, focus. We got a big opportunity here. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Totally.
I digress.
You're right.
But I think people can make $1 million in 30 days. It is technically possible, but you need to reverse engineer it, and figure out what do I have to sell at what price point, to how many people, and can I do that? Is that realistic? And I think a lot of people that I wouldn't say too many look up to me. I have had people say, "Oh, it's easy for you, Chris Green. You're like this guy in this world." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not that big in that big of a world, kind of thing." But I could see someone saying, "Oh, it's easy for you, Kristen, to write a book. You got 50 million followers. Like it's easy for you." And they use that as an excuse. And I want to take that excuse away from them to be like, Kristen had like 0 followers at one point
Yeah.
in time.
I
Okay.
started at 0 as well. Yeah. And you have to
Everybody
work
does.
up and pour in and continue to pour for a long time. Even in today's world, you actually have to pour in more than ever, I feel like, because there's so many people selling online now than there was 15 years ago. And they're being distracted by so much more that, they can click on something and click off and click on something again in a matter of 5 minutes because there's so many ads. There's so much for them to see and buy. And the algorithm has gotten so much better with the ads to even give them exactly what they're looking for at the right moment. And so as long as you build that personal relationship, and this is another reason why the last few years I built my personal brand, because at first I thought, I'm just behind the brand. This is not about me. It's about the movement. It's about the impact with the people. It's not about me. But then, you have to build that personal brand and be someone that they can trust, because it's all about relationships today, because there's so many people that they can buy from and there's so many options. They have to know that you're a good person, you're trustworthy, and you care about them and you're there for them. And so that's really what social media is about today, and why it's so important for us to build a brand around.
I hope more people take that advice and realize that they can build a personal brand around themselves. They don't have to be huge. They don't have to like think, oh, if I don't have 50 million followers, then I'm not a success. You can be successful with a heck of a lot fewer followers and attention on social media. But people need to understand like the transaction process, like the know, like, and trust, and all these different things. And you can use
Mhm.
social media to do that and connect with people. And I've seen people try to fake authenticity. I make the case that I don't think you can fake authenticity for very long. So if you've
Mm.
been doing this a long time, people can start to tell, do they actually live this stuff? Do they actually really enjoy this stuff? And when I coach people, I try to tell them, do something you actually enjoy, because then it won't feel like work. And then
Exactly.
your passion will come through instead of saying, okay, what's hot and what's popular, and I'm gonna go do that kind of thing. Oh, that looks easy. I could do that. Like, yeah, but if you don't actually like it, you're gonna get tired of it. It's gonna become a job. Your passion is gonna come through, and no one's gonna buy from you, because if they can tell you don't believe in it, why should they believe in it? Especially to buy a product.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd love to hear the story of how because I know you had like a little rock bottom moment, and then it kind of led you into writing a book. And as you share that story, I frequently try to help people understand that it's generally a low traumatic type event that really causes people to have like significant change. However, I don't feel it has to. If
Yeah.
you can see enough other people's events and understand kind of what goes into it, then maybe people can make some significant change in their life without having to almost like go through your event, almost like a parasocial. That's probably not the exact right word for it, but like you see other people having a negative event and say, look, that could happen to me. I'm going to change, instead of
Mhm.
I'll change when that does happen to me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like A is better than B on that.
Yeah, proactive versus reactive. You're so right.
Yeah.
We can learn from other people's experiences, but if you can learn from your own, if you experience it and bounce back, that's even better. Sometimes some people, can't bounce back, right? So, yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to dive into that?
Yeah, I know you've told your story, several
Yeah.
times on different podcasts, but if you want
And
to,
it really realigns with what you were saying when you said, doing work that you don't love. Um, so I hit a rock bottom a decade and a half ago, but it was really in my early 20s when I started an eBay business. And I was a power seller, actually. I was very successful. I was pushing through what I was going through, but I didn't love it. I was good at it, but it wasn't something that I made myself passionate. I kind of forced passion into it. And that's probably why it failed. Over time, I got so successful, poured so much into it. I didn't have good work-life balance. I was just pouring into the business and hustling. I would sometimes only sleep a few hours just so I could wake up and get sales again and create something new. And so, yeah, I was a power seller, but then I couldn't keep up with the orders. And, back then it was when eBay was like Amazon is today. It was like super hot. Everybody went there to buy what they bought online. And I couldn't keep up with the orders. A couple people reported that they didn't get their shipments as quickly. And they literally shut my store down. And it was like a night and day thing. I was doing so well. And it wasn't even that. It was like, okay, so I lost my business. What was I going to do? And then, I wasn't taking care of my health. The doctor said to me, like, hey, look, you have PCOS. You're not going to have any children. Like, your health, your body's not equipped. And that was a really hard blow to me. And so I literally was in bed for 2 weeks straight. Like, I felt like, why even get up? I had basically put everything into this business that it's now gone. And then just even being able to be a woman and function and have children, like I can't even do that. I felt like purposeless. And I even felt like maybe God forgot me or maybe he doesn't exist because how could he let this happen? It was a really bad moment for me. But sitting there in bed, just ruminating and thinking about why it happened and what could I do differently, I started to just realize that, hey, I need to pour into myself. I can't be pouring into, and I need to find out what my identity is. What do I actually love to do? What do I want to do next? What am I good at? And asking myself these really vulnerable questions helped me get out of bed, realizing that, hey, I have a bed to sleep on. I have a roof over my head. I can rebuild. This isn't the end. Because, at a moment like that, we often feel like this is it. Like, I don't think I can get out of this. And so from there, I realized, hey, I love social media. And, in my current circumstances, I could work from home. So I found opportunities to work from home, help other people with their social media. I love to design and write. And so I was writing copy and I was designing websites and all of the things. So I found a way to still be an entrepreneur and do things that I loved. And when I created Power Positivity, again, it was like my life had been changing up to that point in such positive ways. I was losing weight, I was eating healthier, I was having more energy, I was loving the work that I was doing. And I felt so grateful that that's why I started Power Positivity. It's like more people need to know that they can come out of something like that and be so far ahead of where they were.
it's really cool. And you're excited about
Yeah.
something, publishing and becoming a published author. Kind of, I'm imagining like maybe like it's like kind of putting lighter fluid on what you were already doing, or was it kind of a different story?
Mm. Yeah, like I said, we didn't monetize Power Positivity until like 4 years. And it was like with our website, it was kind of like a blog. We started writing articles about, positive thinking and healthy foods and healthy activities and all of that. And so that was really successful. And I loved writing. I had a background in journalism. And so that really fit me at the time. But I knew one day eventually I would write a book. About 9 or 10 years ago, I attended a Writing from the Soul workshop with Hay House. And, you know, Wayne Dyer was leading it with Reed Tracy. And it was really inspiring to me at the time because, it was just still a dream to me to write a book. I didn't actually feel like I could do that. To me, it felt so like such a big thing, right? Like, wow, to write a book. And from then on, I started writing more and more. And, he said, just start doing some automatic writing, write a little bit every day. And I had so much content that I was writing for the comfort zone and really my journey of how I started expanding my comfort zone instead of shaming myself for it. And, and of course, all the positive habits and the pillars that I kind of created as a foundation for my change. Anyway, it was about, in 2021 when I published the book. It was actually a bet with Lewis Howes. I had some coffee with him and I was telling him about writing The Comfort Zone. And he said, that's really great, but you should probably write a book on positivity before you write that, before you even go to a publisher. Just do it for yourself. Just do it on your own. Learn the publishing world. Like, just try it. Just make it about quotes or something, make it really digestible for your audience, but helpful. And that's where 3-Minute Positivity Journal was born, because I really thought about, well, I want to give them quotes, but in this, I gave them prompts and information about why they're making these changes, why they're trying out these new things, the science behind it, because the science is so important to know why you're doing it. And then it kind of motivates you to take action. So he gave me like a 4-month deadline, I think, but it did take me 6 months, but only 6 months. So out of thin air, I was able to create an entire book that is, every journal entry is completely unique. It has the same foundation where you add gratitude, affirmations, some self-care check-ins. There's different things, but each day there's a morning and evening, but each one is a little bit different. So it feels like consistency with a little variety, right? But it's completely unique. And to be able to do that in 6 months, I was really shocked and then it was received so well by my community that it gave me the confidence to continue writing. And now I just love writing and writing books, because it really does make an impact when someone reads that. First, it's credibility too, but then the transformation happens in those books, because, they can read some quotes online or read an article. Some people might take action, but people take more action when they actually have a physical copy of a book.
I completely agree. And I have been yelling at anybody that'll listen about the power of publishing since I published my first book in 2011, because it was so obvious at the time. It was like, wait a minute, you guys are all treating me like better. You guys are I'm being invited to keynote all these things. You guys are treating me like I'm this famous rock star, even though it's kind of a small world that I was living in.
Yeah.
But I saw this, I was like, I'm just a regular guy. Like, I'm not any different than before. And the reason I wrote my first book was it was just a really long PDF, just answering the same customer service questions that we got over and over. I was like, look, I'm just going to write all the answers down. And then I stumbled into publishing. And then that's when like kind of doors opened, my eyes opened, like, whoa, published author status is quite powerful. And then I was actually worried. I was thinking, oh, great. Now everybody's going to do this because it's easy, generally easy. It's not a difficult process to write. It's an interior file and a cover file. That's it. I was worried everybody was going to do it. And then everybody's going to be published, and then nobody's going to be cool anymore. And I was completely wrong. It is more powerful today than it was even back then. And I encourage so many people to publish. And I think your first book is a great example where people can see, wait a minute, she didn't have to write like 800 pages about the world, global history of positivity. Like, no, you can make a journal. Now, your journal is much more involved than some of the journals that I've seen out there, which is 200 the same page. That's it, with no guides, no intention, no history, no quotes. Like, you do have a very full-fledged journal, and I like how it's simple. It's morning, it's afternoon, it's evening, so it kind of keeps people on pace. And you're absolutely right. And we talk about this on several episodes. Like, people get more invested, they're going to get better results because they're actually going to do it. And I would make the case that if you just gave your journal away as a free PDF download, fewer people are going to get help. Because they're going to download it, they're going to be like, I ain't going to print that. It's like too many pages. Oh, I don't have enough ink. Like, no, by actually charging them for a product, you're doing them a favor. You're actually going to benefit them. And this is a lesson that took me a long time to learn. You probably heard the phrase, people who pay attention. I was on the other side of that forever. I was like, no, I'm not going to charge. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to give for free forever. And it came from a nice place. However, I didn't understand the fact that when people pay, when they buy a course, when they buy a book, when they actually read it and do all these things, they're actually going to get the results. And it's just part of human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing you've seen something similar.
Yeah, I had to work on a whole like sales paradigm because I felt like that too. But the transformation does happen when they make that commitment to themselves and put the money down. It's like something changes in their brain and they actually like, okay, no, I paid for this. I'm going to actually do it. And I have so many people that have bought another one and another one. And there, there's people that I think I included in my second one, someone's name. She had done like 5 journals, and she just kept that habit going. And it's just amazing when someone buys something and they make that commitment to themselves and they realize, wow, this is powerful. This is someone who took their life experience, and I'm getting it like for very little dollars, on, $10, $20, depending on what the book is. And then I'm putting in the steps that they're guiding me to do, and I'm seeing the transformation. It's amazing. And I've seen such an impact in my community and the gratitude for it. And they put money out. So it's like, okay, it's okay to charge people, it's all right, and then I've created courses and all kinds of things. And it's amazing because we don't realize that it has that much power, but it does.
It's like we know it conceptually, but like we don't always see it, right? Like I don't know, I haven't sold as many books as you have, I doubt, but I did look at my KDP account, and it was like 120,000 books. There are a lot of ebooks. I give away a lot of ebooks, but
Yeah.
even then, I'm like, holy smokes, that's like
Yeah.
like you could fill a stadium with people that have bought my that
That's
sounds
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah.
But and I haven't met most of them, right? I have no idea who most of these people are. Something that comes up, you already mentioned law of attraction. I frequently bring up law of reciprocity. And that's where, like, when you give so much, if you use social media to give so much, you set this kind of situation up where people are like, Kristen, you don't have anything for sale. Can you please sell me something?
Yeah.
Because that's how they want to say thank you, is by purchasing something. Now, not everybody thinks that way, but plenty of people do, where they're like, I've gotten so much from your content. I will buy literally whatever you're selling. And if it's a book, they're going to buy the book, they're going to put it on the shelf. They may not even read it, but that's how they are saying thank you. And if you don't have that book or any kind of product or offer for them, then you can't let the law of reciprocity kick in. And on top of that, so a second kind of question for this is, do you find that people feel selfish about self-care, right? If they feel like they're taking care of themselves, does a feeling of being selfish with a negative connotation ever get in their way?
Yeah. I want to make one comment at what you're saying about the law of reciprocity, because that is so good. And when I first actually launched the book, I didn't have any pre-order. I didn't do any marketing campaigns, because again, I was just kind of like, all right, let's see how this goes. And it got to 49 on the Amazon list, like 49 of all books. Yeah. And then it stayed like in the hundreds for a couple days, and then it stayed in the thousands. And I was so shocked because I had no idea. I didn't even prep anything. Like, I self-published, and it was before Amazon KDP. You couldn't do any pre-order. So it was just like, all right, it's published. There you go. Like, that was it. There you can tell people about it. So just to add in that, it was like all the ripple effect of what I gave out came back. And so I totally believe in that. Now with self-care, that's such a core part of positivity and living a positive lifestyle. Like, people can think positively, but if they're not pouring back into themselves and filling their cup and recharging themselves, then they're never going to feel better, and they're not going to be able to think better. It's going to feel more forced because they're not actually giving back to themselves. And I used to think that self-care was selfish. That was a really core belief that I had to overcome. And so naturally, a lot of my community has to overcome that as well. And I know everyone says that, right? But that's because it's true. And so I see it as more self-awareness. You're getting to know what you actually need every single day, what kind of movement, what kind of food, and it's a more intuitive approach, what I believe. And it's only something that like, no one can say like, hey, you need to go run, or maybe running's better for you, or lifting, because different times in our life, different types of movements are going to be better for us, or different foods. We're all different, different activities. What brings me joy is going to maybe not bring you joy. And yeah, I think it's just such a personal journey of getting to know yourself and then making sure that you're filling your cup. I actually have found that there's 4 areas of self-care, and I talk about this in the comfort zone and in the key to positivity. And so, physical self-care, mental self-care, spiritual self-care, and emotional self-care. And when you can fill all 4 of those consistently, that's where you can show up really feeling and being your best. Because, it's often we might fill one area, overfill it, and then we're still not feeling, recharged, or there's just something off, And so when we're conscious of filling all four of those is when we're really living our best.
I hope more people can take the negative connotation of being selfish out of the equation, because I get where it comes from. People they're not doing it like from a bad place. They're like, oh, I feel bad. Like, other people need me. I want to help other people. There's plenty of people. If their needs were met, they would just spend all day helping other people. It would make them feel great. There's some kind of psychological thing that goes on when you benefit from helping other people, but they get in their own way, in my opinion, because they're like, oh, I know I need to do this for myself, but someone else needs me. And I use this might be a silly example with Amazon, but I've been working close with Amazon for so long. And Amazon, a lot of people say Amazon puts the customer first. And I've
Mm,
seen it so long. I'm like, yes, they absolutely do put the customer first. They will get rid of authors for breaking rules. They don't care because another author will come around. They'll get rid of sellers for breaking a rule because another seller will come. They don't care. Provide a good experience to the customer or they will get rid of you. And it's not even an emotional process for them. However, I did find one thing that Amazon puts above the customer, and it's Amazon. Amazon puts themselves first. And I say this as, I'm close on the self-publishing and on the seller side, where they will have fee structure updates every 6 months. And they'll be like, we're
mm,
adding 5 cents to the fulfillment fee for this type of product. And we're raising the printing cost by like half a penny per page, or like minuscule things. But I see that as, okay, they're keeping themselves in business,
mm.
right? They're not
That's so
gouging.
true.
They're not
Mm,
luring people in, authors in, so they can jack up the price. Like they're raising them by pennies, by nickels, in order to stay in business, because they're putting Amazon first. Because if Amazon's not in business, they can't serve their customers. And
mm.
hopefully people can take that and apply it to themselves. Like if Chris Green's not in business, I can't serve customers, right? Like think of it that way instead of like, oh, I'm being selfish. Like you have to fill yourself up you have to fill your own teapot if you want to like pour tea out for someone else. Kind of
Yeah.
thing. I
Oh
mean, I'm
my
sure there's a
gosh.
million analogies.
That's such a good example, and people can apply that to their own business and their own lives, personally and professionally.
Yeah, staying in business is not a bad thing. You
Hmm.
can't help your
Yeah.
customers if you're not in business. One thing I like about kind of the structure, I think what you're trying to teach in your book is you're not trying to lay out like a plan. You're helping people to find the plan that works for them. Is that a good way to kind of have it? Because I've done it myself, where you see something in a book and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that. And you're like, no, don't do that. That was for this person at this time in their life with this problem. Like, but it seemed like an answer. It's like, it's not they were trying to get answers. It's like, okay, how can you find the answers and the path and the habits that are going to work for you at this
Mm,
phase of your life, and how to like adjust those things as you enter different phases of your life.
yeah. There are some core consistent themes, like I have gratitude in the morning and the evening, and I have affirmations in the morning, and I actually ask them to do the same 3 affirmations until they fully embody them and they actually see it in their lives before they move on to another one. Just because I've seen that work so well for my own life that I pass that on. But there definitely is flexibility, like, okay, what kind of movement or exercise, or do you need rest today? What's the physical self-care that you're taking? What's the mental self-care? Do you need to clean, or, there's different things in our environment that we need to do just that takes care of us, right? And so there's flexibility in there depending, but there are some core things that I think are important to begin our day in a positive way and then end our day in a more restful way, because sleep is just so important to a positive lifestyle. As I'm sure it's like to be a writer and an entrepreneur, you have to get enough sleep to really have the cognition to be a high achiever and to do all of these things.
Well, the sleep one, I learned it later than I probably should have, because it's always like, especially with the entrepreneur, you're like, there's always more you can do, right? Like
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
an early eBay seller. I sold on eBay in 1999,
Yeah.
power seller, shooting star,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Oh,
Converted
yeah.
over to Amazon as a seller. I remember eBay sent us a printout. You're a power seller. Here, print this out yourself and hang it on. And I was so excited at the time, but looking back, I'm like, really? You couldn't have mailed that to me
Yeah,
yourself?
that's so
eBay, like
true.
I sold a lot of stuff here. Um, but there's always something more you can do, right? So like it's like,
Hmm.
when do you stop? When do you say
Hmm.
like, look, I'm gonna take a break and go to bed because I need to sleep 8 hours,
Hmm.
versus like the hustle culture, which can get out of hand if applied incorrectly. I think there's some good parts of hustle culture, like seeing some opportunities and being willing to keep working on projects, but not at the expense of burning out. So I'm glad. I don't know who wrote. Someone wrote an article like calling out the hustle culture not too long ago, and I'm glad they did. It went kind of viral, not super viral, but
Mm. Yeah, I think having a season, not making it part of your identity, and knowing even when you're hustling, are you moving your body? Are you, drinking enough water? Are you eating enough food? Like fueling yourself in whatever way possible when you can, and having that season of hustle, but knowing when you need that season of rest. Like just don't make it your identity, because I totally made it my identity for way too long and then had so many cycles of burnout, and I didn't even know really it was burnout. And it was just like, well, I can just keep pushing through. I can just keep going, but we're not robots. So we're not going to be able to just keep pushing through. Eventually our body's going to be like, all right, no, I'm done. We're not doing any more of this.
I worry that social media puts this like undue pressure on people to
Hmm.
be like, "Hey, you stopped hustling. What's going on?" Or you've been posting and now you can't post that you're not hustling. Or
Yeah.
and I think one of the worst ones is the identity thing, where like you
Mm.
tie your identity to something that you've done. I mean, you were an eBay seller. Like I went from large eBay seller to large. I was one of the first FBA sellers on all of
Mm.
Amazon. Now that
Wow.
everybody knows what FBA is, back then I was like, FBA, what are you talking about? Uh, we were the first for Amazon sellers.
Wow.
I wrote the first book about Amazon, and like, but none of this was necessarily on purpose, right? And a lot of places I was known as the eBay guy, and then I was known as the Amazon guy, and then I was known as the FBA guy, and then I was known as the KDP guy, and then I even got into print on demand merchandise, and it was always like none of it was ever intentional. I would say that
Mm.
I found the best place I could help people was with publishing and book marketing. Like that's my jam. That's
Yeah,
where
you
like
love that. Oh, that's
please, let's
nice.
talk about that all day long. Um, and it's where I feel I help the most people in the sense of like I get the best response. They're like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that because they're an author, not a marketer, right? Or
Did
they're
you did you feel like you were a writer early on, like when you were a kid? Did you like gravitate towards writing or no?
I would not say that. No,
You
like
just
English was not
discovered
my
that
favorite.
through like just publishing. You found that passion.
I found the passion for the impact that publishing allows, that
Mm.
it gives people, because
Yeah.
not everybody can write. I mean, my books, if I get a 1-star review, it's because they generally say this could be edited better or it had some typos. And I'd be like, oh, yes, you're correct. It definitely could be edited better. And it definitely does have some typos. I've been told I have a voice, like I can write in my own voice, which I don't know how
Mm.
else to write. I just write what's in my head. I kind of thought that's what everybody did, but maybe they don't. But to me, it's what you can, if you're using it for your business or as a marketer, like the benefits that you get by publishing something. Now, it always has to be at
Mm.
least kind of good, but it doesn't have to
Mm.
be very long. I mean, like
Yeah.
your journal isn't a super complicated like multi-chapter plot development, and characters, and all this stuff. But if someone sits down, I would encourage somebody buy your journal if they want to make a journal and say, I'm going to model it after this one. It's a successful one, and make it yours and follow the structure and be like, oh, this makes sense. Like you can see how someone else does it and be like, oh, I can publish. And once you publish, then doors just kind of start to open.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's the energy behind it. Like if that is what you live by or part of what you're doing and you really embody that and then you're giving that advice to someone else, it's authentic like you were talking about earlier. And when you're actually like passing that on, it's the energy behind it of why you're doing it and that it's actually true to you that it kind of ripples out because people can tell that. I think they can feel that and the energy is there. So it's not necessarily like spoken, right?
oh, sure. And if it's a book and it's on Amazon, now it's worldwide. Now you can
Mm.
help people,
Yeah.
at scale. And especially if it's your book and you're happy to tell people about it instead of writing a book that because it's, oh, this is going to be popular, or I heard Bitcoin's popular, I'm going to write a Bitcoin
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
I'll never write a Bitcoin book. Who would I even sell it to? I don't even know. But if it's your book, you
Yeah.
should be wanting to tell people about it. And that's where, authors are generally not marketers. So I'm like, let me help you become a marketer,
Yeah.
author person. Because if you have a book that solves people's problems, you should be telling everybody that will listen about
Yeah.
it. You're not a used car salesman, you're a marketer. And
Yeah.
they confuse the two in my experience. Uh, so with your new book coming out, I love the fact that you're already taking, I mean, there's pre-orders on Amazon, but if you go to your website, there's a bonus, right? So you can pre-order on Amazon, which is where everybody wants to order anyway. Then they come back, they put in their order ID, and they get bonuses, and they can join your Facebook group. Like I love kind of that everything that you've done with that. You want to tell people about the bonuses that you do get for people who do go in and pre-order
Yeah.
your newest book?
Yeah, with social media, it's like instant gratification, right? You got to have something now. And so I have bonuses, and there's even a 7-day self-care challenge
Mm.
that they can start reading about self-care and then implementing it today so they can get some material and get things moving and get that momentum before the book comes at the end of the month in May. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I do feel that adding those bonuses really helps to get, if they don't know me or know about me, get them to get to know me, get into my community, and go live with me. Even there's so many different opportunities that I have in the bonuses. But if not, even just starting one of the self-care challenges, or I have a guide about power stances, I'm really big on those. And so yeah, there's so many options there, and I love to overgive, and so that's my way of overgiving.
Well, I think people should like the value that you're giving in the bonus. I might copy some of your bonuses, to be honest, because you're also going live with them. So people are like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I got to pre-order this book. It's like $17 on Amazon. It's got a price guarantee. I could even return it later and she would never know, kind of thing. Like you place that pre-order and then you get all of these extra bonuses as
Yeah.
well as live access. And I think that's where people should like it's okay to lean into some of your credibility and some of your like signals you can put out there. Be like, you get these live sessions with me, and yes, I have 50 million followers across social media. You can go to my website. You can see where I have 30 million here, I have 10 million here, all these different things. And people might say, wait a minute, I'm getting access to someone with that much influence, and all I have to do is buy the book. I'm like, yes, this is a disproportionate benefit right now because it's a launch, right? Like I'm guessing these bonuses and the access to you is not always going to be there. However, for a book launch, you want to have a big launch, you want to make a big splash, you want to help a bunch of people, so you do these bonuses. So when people see them, like, wait a minute, I'm going to take advantage. This is one of the good ones. I want to take
Yeah.
advantage of this one.
Yeah. Got to give the overvalue. It's super important.
Well, if you over deliver, then people are like, wow, I wonder what else she has, right? I wonder how good this must be. And then you
Mhm.
can build a business around helping people. And do you have a hard stop at one or?
No, I'm good. Oh
Okay.
yeah, I do have a call 1 to 1:30
All right,
with
we can wrap up quick.
community. Yeah,
I
yeah.
like community. I canceled my number though. I found I didn't use it
They
very much.
changed. I know was it before after they changed everything?
No,
They
I
changed
just
their
wasn't using
pricing
it.
structure and everything. No, I actually used it to sell 3 Minute Positivity Journal because I gave them daily text updates every single day for almost an entire year.
Oh, wow.
And then when I told them about the book, they were just like, "Oh my gosh, of course. I would love to buy this book." And I didn't realize that just pouring in with just little quotes every day would make such an impact.
Does it make sense in hindsight though? Like, oh, okay, I kind of see how this works.
Yeah, I see that. And they do love that daily. It's the consistency to know, like, hey, someone is there and I can rely on this every day. Even though it wasn't the same time every day, they were like, okay. And so I think anyone that just kind of pours into their community a little bit every day, they can make such an impact and even generate sales.
No, absolutely. And for people that may not know what we're talking about, community is a kind of a group texting service. So you can have a list, like it's how you have to send mass text. You can't just like put in 2,000 names into your Verizon phone, and it's just
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't really
They
work
have
that way.
to
So it's a
sign up.
service.
Hmm.
They can sign up. You can have thousands of people on your list. They give you a new cell phone number. Their website is community.com. So if any marketers are listening to this and they're like, I'm interested in text marketing, community.com will do that. You probably see if you've seen some of the big celebrities putting a cell phone number on their screen, they're probably using community. That's probably not their personal cell phone. Although it might be. I know some of them might do it. I'd love to get just a little feedback on the idea of work being something where you get paid, but you don't like it. And then fun is where you don't get paid, but you really, really like it and you really enjoy it and you want to spend time there. And how maybe that's more of an American thing where it's just us
Mm,
versus them. It's work time versus play time, and how if you stop and think, none of it's necessarily true, right? You're allowed to make money having fun, and sometimes you do things you don't like, even if you're not getting paid. And if we can break people of that, I think maybe people will say, wait a minute, you mean I can run a business doing something I like and get paid for it? Because I find that a lot of people, especially in the US, that's a foreign concept to them. They think work,
mm.
you get paid, but you don't like it. And I'm having a hard time breaking people out of that. Maybe you haven't run into that as often as I have.
I find it's first mindset, though. They have to understand that work can be fun. And so I believe we just have a lot of limiting beliefs around work. And when we can kind of journal a little bit about what our beliefs are about work and then change those, it can make a lot of things easier. Even, working out, we might think it's hard, but if we can dial down and create affirmations or more positive beliefs around working out, around these things that might seem hard, then it really eases the blow. For me, I had to decide, like, what do I like to do and what am I good at? And finding the balance of that. Even today, I have to go back to that. Like, okay, I'm doing this, but do I really love this or should I delegate it? Not everybody has the opportunity to be able to delegate to someone on their team, but working up to that, building your business and scaling in a way that, hey, now you can delegate that task because that's definitely not your favorite thing, and when I look back, my eBay store, I did not love shipping, but back then you couldn't just hire an EA as easily as you can today, but if you are struggling and there's an area that you don't like to do, find a way to like it. And if you can't, create an opportunity to be able to hire someone to delegate that so that you can stay in this area of genius and be in that flow. Because if you can make work fun, then you get to stay in that flow. You can be more productive. You can have better opportunities. And I feel like that's a big reason why I'm so successful with Power of Positivity, because I harnessed skill sets that I had and that I already loved. And I made it something that I love. And I brought that passion and I brought that gratitude to it and that perspective. And that's everything when you are doing work. If you're going to spend so much time working, you've got to like it, because I've been there to where you feel like you don't want to get up to work, or you don't want to get up to even work out or do the things that you feel like you have to do. But if you start looking at it as, I get to do this, I want to do this, I love doing this, that energy shifts the opportunities and shifts the outcomes in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, basically, it's all in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like whatever your current moment is, you got like the past and the future to think about. There's a famous quote from writers where it's like, I don't like writing, but I like having written. And if you think about it for the gym, it's like, I don't like working out, but I like having worked out. And
Yeah.
if you can remember that while you're pushing through something, you're like, I don't like this, I don't want to be here, but you're like, okay, future self is going to be present self pretty soon, and be happy that I did work out, happy that I did sit down and write, happy that I did keep the momentum going and the repetition going, and have a streak of whatever it is that someone's trying to improve on, and just understand some of those concepts and be like, yeah, this kind of works. So, people
Yeah.
can follow along. They can do all of the stuff through your journals, with the 30, the 60, the 90, the new book coming out, the Key to Positivity. They can find that on your website. They put in the .com. It's going to redirect right to the landing page where they can pre-order as well as get access to all of those bonuses. Kristen, thanks so much for coming on. I could talk to you for hours about some of this stuff. I'll give you the last word, or the best place for people to find you on the internet. You're kind of everywhere, but the best place for people to find you if they want more information on you and your books and everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I love Instagram, so I love updating my stories and my posts. So at Positive Kristen on Instagram, or at Power of Positivity for my brand. And yeah, if I could give one last piece of advice, is just do it, like Nike says, because if you want to write and you've been saying you're going to do it and you're going to do it, there's so much regret in that if you never actually do it. And it's not as hard if you take it step by step and know that each step will eventually get there. You can't look at the whole thing and that's going to overwhelm you. You just say, okay, I'm going to learn the next step. I'm going to learn the next step. And you don't have to have a publisher. You can do it on your own. And it's not as easy and scary as it seems. And it's so worth it. I think I recently read that John Maxwell had like 100 books. Can you believe that? 100 books? I'm like, he's the man. Like, that's incredible. You can write one if he's written.
Just get started, see that process, see it's actually not that hard. If you're stuck, please reach out. There are so many services. There are so many great YouTube channels out there. A lot of them for free. There's information to help you get published. And once you see that, you say, okay, did it once. What's my next good book going to be? And you might be your 100th book. And then everything finally comes together. But it's a very worthwhile skill. Kristen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll chat again soon, and I will send Nick Hutchison from Book Thinkers a message thanking him again for the connection.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast. If you'd like more information about this episode's guest, you can find links to their books, websites, and social media profiles in the show notes and video description. If you're an author or business owner who's interested in learning more about how you can use books and published author status to market and grow your business or personal brand, or if you're an aspiring author looking for more information about the publishing process, you can find more information and request an author audit at authorpreneur.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to recommend someone, please reach out via email to chris@authorpreneur.com. Remember, a book is just a book, but when it's your book, it's an asset. #Authorpreneur.